Perfect. Thank you very much for joining me. Yes, my name is Sean, and you're watching MLS Ireland's my prediction show week. I think it's week 10. There's a lot happening. Stay tuned. Perfect. Thank you very much for joining me. Yes, my name is Sean, and if you're new to this, hit that subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching me. I'm up to 185. I know that sounded very weird saying you're watching me, but anyway, you know what I mean. Thank you very much. What I'm trying to say is I'm doing quite well. If you haven't already, hit me up on Twitch. I'm trying to get that. See if I can get that going. I'm going to try and do midweek games and that. Hence why 2 nights ago my picture wasn't that great. I filmed it on a GoPro, which did wide angle, and I didn't know how to get out of that. So yes, I'm still learning. Again, I'm doing alright. I'm getting my predictions quite right. For last night's games, I put on like a $5 bet on like 8 or 9 games, and they all came through. So I won a bit of money for that. So yay! But I didn't put money on the rest of the teams. But anyway, I picked on the teams that I was more certain of winning. There was a bit of surprises last night, whereas like Cincinnati winning 1-0 against Chicago Fire, which wasn't. I'm not going to say that it was. Like you didn't suspect that. Yeah. Was a bit unexpected. Other games that was a bit weird. Toronto getting beat by Nashville. I did expect those teams to be probably like a draw or something. I didn't expect Nashville to beat them. Portland Timbers and Houston 2-2, not too bad. Seattle beating Real Salt Lake. I thought it would be a bit more extravagant. Vancouver nearly getting a result or a draw against LAFC, LA Galaxy, who just basically equalised in the last minute and basically won me all that money. So thank you. Obviously the Orlando game 5-0. I didn't expect that. I knew they would win, but I didn't expect that to a certain extent. So yeah, that's my predictions weren't too far off. Again, thank you for watching this, and let me know in the comments below what you think this week's games is, because there's going to be a hell of a lot more. And I've got football in the next 20, 30, 40 minutes. So I need to get cracking. So, yep, the first game is a Florida derby, if you can say that it is. Well, obviously it is, but these two teams are really not really derbies, really. It is Inter Miami against Orlando. Orlando, who are 4th in the league, which is pretty good. Last year they were very good as well. And then Inter Miami coming into this year now are 22nd in the league. They've lost their last 3 games, which isn't too bad, even though that they've lost Higuain for some weird reason. I think he's just basically taking a huff now that he's figured out that MLS is actually harder than he thinks. And they're coming up against. They're actually at home, which is not going to be a bad choice for them. They haven't won a game at home this season so far. In 4 games, I think it is, they've played at home. They're coming up against an Orlando team who have probably won half of their games away from home at this moment in time. So they're coming into this a bit more of the informed team. Well, informed team, obviously, because Inter Miami has only won 2 games this season. Granted, 2 of them were. One of them was a big scalp against. Well, they beat Cincinnati, and I think they beat somebody else too. I can't literally remember. Which was a big game. It was Philadelphia. Yeah, that was at the start of the season, so I wouldn't really pay too much attention into that, because Philadelphia now are on fire and Inter Miami are on fire basically. So I'm going to go with like a 2-1 win to Orlando, just for the fact is they have Nani, have DK. They have a lot of good players now. DK's back and firing, scoring loads of goals before he's going to be sold again. So Orlando are the better team, so enjoy Orlando where you have Dyke. I know that you're all happy when you see players go into. I don't like it. The next one is Sporting Kansas City against Los Angeles FC. Now, every time I come up against Sporting Kansas City, I always think they're like 8th or 9th in the league and never really focus on where they are. They're actually 3rd in the league, which is pretty impressive. In the last 6 games, they've only lost to 1, and that was in Portland, so that's not a bad one. They drew against Austin, but they beat Colorado Rapids last night. So that was a pretty good result for them, 3-1. I think I predicted a wee bit more tighter than that. Can't remember, but Yeah, and they're coming up against an LAFC team who did also won last night. They beat FC Dallas 2-0, with Vieira getting back on the score sheet, and so things maybe could be looking up for them, God knows. But I went for like a 3-1 win to Sporting Kansas City, just for the fact is that they have a more rounder team at this present time, whereas LAFC are still inconsistent and they're very hard to predict at this moment. I just think Sporting Kansas City are that far better team, and you would suspect when you watch them they are that better team, obviously. I just don't see LAFC doing much this season. The next one is Toronto against FC Cincinnati. Toronto was third from bottom and FC Cincinnati was second from bottom, and now FC Cincinnati is third from bottom and dropped Toronto down into second from last. So well done, Cincinnati. You're doing quite well this season so far. You've won the only 2 games you've won this season was 2 away from home. I know you've only played like 3 or 4 at home at the moment, but it's pretty impressive. You're doing well, and obviously you're coming up against a Toronto team who you will be playing in Florida, I believe. So, and you beat Montreal in Florida, so I would assume. I think it may be in the same stadium. I'm not 100% sure. So when all this thinking comes in, I think Toronto should win this one 2-1. It's just there. I think now they're a better team. So Toronto's probably going to go above them again. So sorry, Cincinnati. I know I like using. I want to use to do well, but I don't think this one's for you. The next one is Chicago Fire against Philadelphia. Now this one's going to be an interesting one. Chicago Fire are, as I said, are a very strange team. They are probably conceding a lot of goals. They've conceded 14 this season so far, which isn't very good, and they've scored 4. But they're capable of. They're like a Burnley team. You know what I mean? They're a team that can very surprise you with a bit of tactics that you haven't trained for. That's what I'm trying to say. I think Philadelphia don't train well for set plays, balls into the box. Hence why against Atlanta they very struggled against those things very much. So saying that, I think Philadelphia are going to win this one. I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win, but I think they're going to make very hard work of it. I think Chicago Fire is probably going to get 1 in the lead. Probably get into the second half and then basically play 10 men behind the ball and try to do the same, but I think Philadelphia have too much for it, and I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. So that is that one. The next one is Nashville against Montreal. As I said, Nashville won last night, which was a very good game against Toronto. They're coming up against I've got an itchy knee against a Montreal team. Let's see where Montreal. They drew their last game against DC United. And then beat Chicago Fire, but then got beaten by Cincinnati, as I said. So, yep. Real Salt Lake, or this is Nashville. I missed one there. Anyway, it's Nashville against Montreal. I went for like a 1-1. I think Nashville not going to lose this one, but I think Montreal have the capabilities of getting a goal and then shutting up shop. So I think they're going to kind of make this one a wee bit hard for Nashville, obviously. So yeah, I'm going to go for like a 1-1. The next one is Real Salt Lake against Houston Dynamo. This is the one I should have flipped about. Anyway, never mind. Houston Dynamo haven't won a game away from home this moment in this season. Real Salt Lake have only played a handful of games when you think about it. They've only played 8 games, and in the last 8 games they've only won. In the last 6 games they've only won the one, which is against Vancouver. So they're coming up against another good team who are probably good in the counter and all that kind of stuff, but I don't see them winning this one, as I want for Real Salt Lake to win 2-1. I know Houston Dynamo are above them in the league at the moment, but they've played an extra 2 games and they don't look as probably complete, and probably they're away from home and all that kind of stuff. So I went for a Real Salt Lake who have their fans and all that kind of stuff. You know, you kind of have to think about all this. So yeah, I'm going to win for that one. The next one is Seattle against Vancouver. Which is a Cascadia Cup thing. It's the Seattle win, basically, isn't it? They're coming up against a Vancouver team who have lost the last 5 games. And this is going to be another one away from home, where they got beaten by Real Salt Lake, Houston Dynamo, Sporting Kansas City and Minnesota, and then beat Montreal. But they come up against a very good Seattle team who in the last 6 they haven't lost a game this season so far, but in the last 6 they only drew 2 games, which was against Atlanta and Austin. Awesome. So yeah, they come up against a Vancouver team. I would suspect this one's going to be like a 2-0 win. to Seattle. I just can't see this. Can't see Vancouver. They could probably nick the one goal here or there, but I don't think this could be like a 3 or 4-0. But I think I just went for a more subtle 2-0 win, as where I'm thinking Vancouver's going to be very hard to beat and trying to be that a big block and trying to keep Seattle out. That's my thinking in that one. If they were wise, they would go that one. The next one is San Jose against LA Galaxy. The Cal Classic, I think this one is called. LA Galaxy are doing very well this season so far, which is quite surprising. In the last 6, they've won 4 of their games. They beat Vancouver away. They've beaten San Jose Earthquakes already this season, so that was a 1-0 win. And they're playing now in San Jose, who I'm not going to say San Jose are not doing all powerfully well. They've only won 3 games out of 10, and in the last 6 games they've only drew the 1, and they've lost the rest. So that's not quite good. So hence why I went for a Galaxy 2-1 win. Just Galaxy are looking sharper, and they have a goal scorer and all that kind of stuff. I think just basically San Jose started quite well at the start of the season, and won the last game, got sent off. Then they came back and won a good game, and then just dived. So yeah, I'm going to go for like a 2-1 win. And then the next one is Portland Timbers against Minnesota United. Minnesota are just above San Jose Earthquakes. Not too bad in the last 6 games. They've only won. They've lost of 1 and drew 2, and then won the other 3, obviously. And yeah, they're not too bad. They're coming up against the Portland Timbers team, who are, as I say every week, are sporadic and haven't got a clue to predict these ones. How every time they play. Like, I would expect them to get beaten by LA Galaxy. They beat them 3-0. I expected them to get beaten by Sporting Kansas City. They won 2-1. But then they got beat by Philadelphia, which you would have suspected. And then, all these kind of games you don't expect them to do. And then they drew against Houston Dynamo last night. So they're coming up against a Minnesota team who I would suspect them to do a bit better in this one. So hence, I went for a bit of a shocker in this one. As I said, it's going to be pretty hard to predict, but I went for a 2-1 win to Minnesota, just for the fact is they have a better inform coming into this, I suppose, whereas Portland are a bit all over the place, and Minnesota are just that bit coming into the game. They haven't lost in the last 5, whereas Portland have. That's my thinking, obviously. So, a lot of good information comes up in there, trust me. The next one is Atlanta against New York Red Bull. Atlanta, where have you been? You have only in the last 4 games you've won 1 and drew 2. You drew 2 and won 2 in the last 4 games, and you're coming up against the New York Red Bull team who haven't won away from home, which is pretty bad for a team that you would expect them to be, pressing hard. They, hard to get the ball up, hard to get around and all that kind of stuff, but they're not doing all that great this moment. So I went for like a 2-1 win to Atlanta. I know Joseph Martinez isn't back, but for some reason Atlanta are having kind of success of scoring goals without him, which isn't a bad thing. Like they drew 2-2 against Nashville and Philadelphia, and they drew against Seattle. But I know they got beat by New York City FC 2 nights ago, but I think New York they're gonna beat the Red Bull side of this one, so I'm gonna go for like a 2-1 win, and that's And the next one is New York City FC against DC United. DC United, they're a very strange team at this moment in time. They're in form coming into this. Well, are they? In the last 6, they've lost 2, and that was against Orlando and Philadelphia, which isn't a bad way of. It's not bad of losing. They're coming up against the New York City FC team, who are, where are they in the league? They are 8th in the league, and they have beaten Atlanta, got beaten by New England, which isn't a bad thing. Then beaten LAFC, but got beaten by like Columbus Crew and drew with Toronto and Orlando, which against Toronto was probably a bit of an annoying one, I would suspect, for them. But coming against DC United at home, I suspect them to win this one for like a 2-0 win. I think they've already played each other this season so far. Yeah, DC United at the start of the season beat them 2-1. So I think this is going to be a bit of a revenge for them. So just 2-0 I think is probably a bit gracious. It could possibly be like a 1-0 or a 2-1, but I'm going to go for a 2-0 on that one. Austin against Columbus Crew. Columbus the crew, God knows now what they want to be called. So Austin FC, who I believe lost last night. They've lost last night against Minnesota. They haven't won any games in the last 6. They are playing at home against a Columbus Crew team who are probably just not in Columbus Crew form. You always expect them to be very good, but in the last 6 games they haven't drew any. They've lost 3 and won 3. So they're coming up against an Austin FC team who you would suspect them at home to get this one over the line. I don't think really Columbus Crew did themselves any favours last night, getting beat by Philadelphia 1-0. It isn't a bad result, and they're coming into this game probably low in confidence. I think Austin may get a good result in this one. I still think they're going to get they're going to score a goal. I want them to score a goal, but they're going to get beat 2-1 by Columbus Crew. And just Columbus Crew are just a far better team, whereas Austin are just still trying to find their feet. Congratulations on your new stadium. I think this is the second game in the new stadium, so it'll be impressive to see against a very good team. So all the best. And then the last one is FC Dallas against New England Revolution. Now, every time I come up against New England Revolution, as I said, against a Sporting Kansas City team, you don't expect them to be where they are. They're probably the most informed team at this moment. In the last 6 games, they've only drew the 1, and that was against Philadelphia, which was a pretty good result for them. They've beaten Columbus, they've beaten Red Bull, they've beaten Cincinnati, New York City, Red Bull, and all again. 3-1, 3-2. So coming up against Dallas in Dallas, who are 23rd in the league and they haven't won a game in the last 6. So you can kind of see where this one's going. They've FC Dallas are conceding a lot of goals, which isn't good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 in the last 6, so that's not good. So I'm going to go for like a 3-1 win. New England are looking good, looking surprisingly good. 3-1 win to New England, and that's hopefully this week wrapped up. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like this, hit that share button, share, all that kind of stuff that people do on Facebook, and I hope to see you on the next one, which I believe could be the 4th of July, I think. But anyway, stay tuned, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.